A very good evening. You're watching India Sense. I'm Gauri Dwivedi. Over the course of the next 30 minutes, we get you all the big stories that we are tracking. But first up, as always, the headlines. The mega trade deal is in the pipeline. India-US thrash out the finer details. Is there a big, beautiful deal in the offing? Or is there a limited pack that's likely to be announced? We decode how big a game changer this could be for India. 5 nations in 8 days. Prime Minister Modi's longest foreign tour focuses on diplomacy and securing critical minerals for India. We tell you the top gains from this visit. Pakistan is now a laboratory of Chinese arms. Big statement by Indian Army says Operation Synindur saw the China-Pakistan nexus widen to also include Turkey. Ahead of the 90th birthday celebration of His Holiness Dalai Lama, focus returns on the Tibet-China issue after Dalai Lama snubbed Beijing on the issue of his successor. Celebrations to begin in Dharamshala on the 6th of July. Our big story on the show this week on India Sense, the India-US trade deal, a pact that's been in the offing for some time, but really picked up pace after the April 2nd tariff bombshell that Donald Trump hit the world with. But by all accounts, it is likely to be a mini deal. That's what many are expecting. Unlikely to be a full-blown agreement, which may take more time and more negotiations. Now let's decode that. But make no mistake, viewers, India is playing hardball. It's not conceding ground to American businesses, not till there is adequate compensation. And that is the big story. US has been pushing its agriculture and dairy products to promote its farmers. Something you can see, it wants to do that. And that's been one of the biggest contentions, a politically powerful section the American farmers are. While India has been resisting tariff concessions on agri-goods to protect our farm base, to ensure that low-priced American agriculture and dairy products do not flood our markets. But that's just half of the story. The other half is that the Indian farmer needs support. He needs the cushion from policymakers, and I'm going to tell you why. There's a reason for it. Look at the difference that exists between the Indian farmer and the American farmer. The average Indian farm is about a little over 1 hectare. Now compare that to America, which is about 185 to 187 hectares. That's the difference. Now the herd size, that's also about 100 times more, 2 to 3, 4 farm animals on an average farm in India as compared to hundreds in the US. Now this means that an American farmer that's part of the powerful lobby and one of President Trump's core base, remember, his base actually exists between the two shores in America, between the two coastlines. He's pushing for opening up of the agri sector in India because there are economies of scale there, and that is going to put the Indian farmer at a huge disadvantage. Now let's talk about the other contentious issue, which is the genetically modified crops, which India doesn't allow, which most of the US crops, whether it's corn, whether it's soya bean production, they are all GM based. And that is another critical issue that's unlikely to be thrashed out right now, but probably would need more give and take. But the one give and take that India has agreed to is for dry fruits and apples, not for corn, soya bean, wheat and dairy, but for dry fruits. Now, what does this mean? This matters even more since it involves politically sensitive states of UP and of Bihar. And on the outside, let's look at outside of agriculture. America wants that India should cut duties when it comes to whiskey, when it comes to cars. But then there should also be a commensurate reciprocity that it has to extend. And that is for India's labor-intensive industries, which is footwear, garments, and several others. And as India keeps its national interests at the center, what's expected is a deal that's likely to focus on some middle ground that could be achieved on a few set of sectors. May not include all of it, may not be a big comprehensive deal, but something that could be more middle ground in its nature. But let's be clear, a limited trade deal is actually better than not being able to thrash out any settlement whatsoever. Because A, it will mean the focus will be on specific sectors where trade can actually boom. The 500 mission that is there could actually take off from there. And it would also mean that negotiations can continue on some of the contentious aspects. And the second is an equally important point, which is that could be the consequence is that with the trade deal out of the way, focus may come back on strategic aspects of the relationship. And that's equally important, that once some sort of a trade deal is thrashed out, then the focus can be on what all and what else can this relationship offer. And I think that's the significant part as far as this trade deal is concerned. And to talk more on that, let me now get in the first top voice on the show. The Indo-US Chamber of Commerce Secretary joining us, which is President Mr. A. Shekhar joining us. So let me start by asking you the first thing, which is that how do you see this trade deal in terms of its potential, its impact?
As I said, India and US, from Indo-American Chamber of Commerce perspective, what we would like to say is, because we have been taking a lot of inputs from our members. We have our 1,800 strong members. The main thing is, we know that the deal is around $210 billion to grow to 500, which is so India's largest trading partner for last year has been United States. So it is extremely big for us that this deal has to go, which is good for both the countries. And for USA, we are the 9th largest trading partner. And USA is looking forward to working with us to see that they can have better supply chain resilience. Whenever the trade volumes are going to increase, it definitely means it's a gain for us, for both the countries. So that itself is a first testament to show that there is going to be gains for us for this type of a trade deal, because the US is the largest consumption country in the world. And it's one of the biggest markets to which we can address. And we have certain strengths, like, one of the things is we have very high engineering goods, textiles, in bulk pharma drugs, and also, we have so many areas in which we'll be able to work with them, which would be beneficial for us. And similarly for United States, see, this is one of the largest democratic country on the other side, with whom there is a growing middle class, which is growing bigger in size, where the personal consumption is likely to grow, which would also be a good market for United States also to look at us. So it's a sort of a win-win on both ends, which is what is there.
All right. Then, Mr. Shekhar, let me ask you this, and that's at the crux of how one views this trade deal, which is it better to have a limited trade deal, get it out of the way, rather than to keep having long-drawn negotiations over a comprehensive trade pact that may actually take longer because there are political interests at stake as well?
Yes, agriculture and dairy products are, one of the things is both they are politically sensitive is one. Not only that, what is most needed is that, see, we have to understand that the Indian agriculture is all on, small farmers, an average size of about 2.5 acres, whereas the American ones are all in the numbers which could be, say, 1,000 times of the size or so. So, and that makes a big difference. So naturally, it is not a level playing field when it comes to that. Similarly, when you look at the dairy, see, we work on a very a large cooperative systems, and there are multitudes of sources on which, and smaller ones which are there. So these are naturally, it's not a clear level playing one. So every government will have to see what is right for them. And it's not only that, but US can offer many other things. We have a lot of energy requirements, which US can definitely help us. And I think that should also be there. we will definitely have some amount of more of agricultural products which may come in. What is more worrying us is that we are to ensure that we have a sort of a stricter quota on anything to do with genetically modified products.
Okay.
So those are of ones which are probably
All right.
our country would take a lot of care to see that
All
I
right.
mean, we don't have we don't disrupt the chain which is right now operating. Basically, we will have a larger strength because the one is that I can offer you a big manufacturing talent pool which can provide you the products as an alternative. Of course, we would be looking at higher end of engineering side is what where we would be really fitting in, because if you look at China's manufacturing base or capability is so large. They almost have a capacity which could even service the world a few times over. So you don't stand there. So we definitely need a sort of a tariff advantage between those countries, which will be a real fair one. And at the same time, we can provide you with, once we get some better manufacturing technologies and other things from the US, which US can offer, they would be able to get much in certain products and services at which would be advantageous to them. So this is where we look at it. And this deal would also be, this will be one of the points which would probably offset the agricultural one sticky issues which can go around which is happening between our two countries.
Okay, I'm going to leave it there, sir. Thanks much for speaking to us. As these negotiations are continuing, it seems that one cannot only be talking about negotiations through the prism of deadlines. And I think that's extremely important that Union Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal on the trade deal has said and made a very important statement that negotiations are underway, but an FTA will be done only when it's a win-win. Let's get in my colleague Himanshu Shekhar for more on this. All right, let's get in Himanshu for more on this. Himanshu, you've been speaking to your sources, and the government is also very clear that the trade deal will happen, but only when Indian interests are protected, secured, and addressed.
That's right, and that is the important message that Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has just given in Bharat Mandapam. He was here for the toy-based program, and when we asked him how much hopeful he is of an interim India-US trade deal ahead of the July 9 deadline, he made a very important statement. I think a couple of things that he has said, I think, is a very clear indication that India, of course, will put its national interest at the front before finalizing any such trade deal with the US. He said that we are not only talking to US, we are talking to the EU, we are talking to Oman, we are talking to New Zealand. Any developed country, if it wants to do a free trade agreement, we're ready to start talks with them. But these free trade agreements will only be signed if it supports or helps India's national interest. He said that we never get into a free trade agreement or any kind of trade deal with a specific deadline in mind. For us, the topmost priority is India's national interest. And it's only when we are convinced that India's national interest is being served in a trade deal, then only we agree to such trade deals. So I think in many words, he has made it very clear that whether it is the interim trade deal or the BTA talks that are going on with US or FTA with any other country, India, of course, will give topmost priority to its own national interest. And I think the timing of Commerce Minister's statement is very, very significant. It comes at a time when we have been told by sources that the deal now is in the very, very final stages. Some officials even are indicating that this could be imminent. It all up to now US President Donald Trump to take a final call on what agreement has been reached between the official level talks between India and the US. So I think it's a wait and watch situation, but Commerce Minister very categorically making it in very clear terms that we will have a deal only if it serves India's national interest.
All right, I'm going to leave it there. Himanshu Shekhar, my colleague, giving us the very latest there. A deal will happen, but a deal will happen on India's terms. That's the big story there. A trade deal is in the pipeline. There are expectations that it could be 24 to 48 hours as well. But again, negotiations are continuing, but a deal will take place only when it serves Indian interests, protects our interests, and addresses the concerns that we've been flagging. Before that, there is no deal on the table, and that's what Himanshu was telling right there. All right, viewers, that's the big story that we are tracking right now in terms of the trade deal. All right, shifting focus now to the first wide-angle story on the show. Viewers, last month, the world watched as Operation Synindur painted the skies red over Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. India's roaring answer to the blood that spilled in Pahalgam. 26 Indian lives were lost. And what did we uncover behind the smoke and terror? Well, a reality that we've only been talking about more often than not, which is Pakistan isn't just playing with fire, it's renting the matches from China. And now, that's not just a defense partnership, it is straight-up dependency. In fact, Army Deputy Chief Rahul Singh said that. He did not mince his words when he said that this isn't a two-front threat, it's one enemy with two faces, that is Beijing and Islamabad. China treating Pakistan like a live weapons lab, testing stealth fighters, spy tech, and experimental tools of destruction. As far as India is concerned, it didn't blink. But I first want to play out that soundbite of Lieutenant General Rahul Singh.
Few lessons that I thought I must flag as far as Operation Synindur is concerned. Firstly, one border, two adversaries. So we saw Pakistan one side, but adversaries were two.
India was very clear that Operation Synindur was swift, sharp, surgical. 9 terror camps were erased, over 100 terrorists neutralized. And lurking in the shadows was Turkey, posturing as a self-declared caliphate, cheering from the sidelines while pushing propaganda wrapped in pan-Islamic pretense. When Ankara echoes Islamabad and Beijing funds the bullets, it's not coincidence, it is coordination. Ankara was once a bridge between civilizations. It now plays the court jester for tyrants, trading its credibility for clout in a conflict that isn't its own as well. But India's message to the world has been absolutely clear. It's going to take every terror threat seriously. Remember, Operation Synindur hasn't ended. And that's a message that all three of these part of the nexus should remember. I want to play out that soundbite.
China perhaps has seen is that he is able to test his weapons against, say, various other weapon systems that are there. It's like a live lab which is available to. So it's a good, that is what is something we have to be very, very cognizant about.
Viewers, a quick break on India Ascents. We return on the other side with more about Prime Minister Modi's longest foreign trip and what could be the big gains for India. More on that after this break. Stay with us. Viewers, Prime Minister Modi's longest foreign trip is at a time of rising geopolitical flux that is taking place and growing strategic competition in terms of securing critical resources. The trip has two clear goals: deepening South-South cooperation and ensuring uninterrupted and secure access to rare earth minerals that are vital for India's green and tech future. Right now, China owns a large part of the global critical mineral supply chain, and India wants to have its own supply, which is why each of these 5 countries are so important. And I'm going to put that out for you to understand what are our gains from each of these countries where the Prime Minister has visited and will go. First up is Ghana, where this is a place where we rely on most importantly, gold. 70% of imports that come from Ghana are actually gold. The total amount of investments that India makes here is about $2 billion. Half of it is in terms of direct investments, and the remaining half is in terms of line of credit. India is a big investor here, and these investments give us the kind of strategic heft that we want in a country which is very rich in one of the minerals that we need significantly. India is also one of the largest consumers of gold around the world. Securing that is so important. Let's now move ahead and tell you about Trinidad and Tobago, where the Prime Minister is right now, and he will be getting the highest civilian honor. Now, this is another very important country because 50% of the population here is It is home to India's largest Indian diaspora in the Caribbean and the Latin American region. 50% of them are from Indian origin, and major items of imports for India include fuels and oil that are key to trade. There is an underlying theme here, which is critical minerals, and you're going to see that in every country. Here in Trinidad and Tobago as well, it is people at one end and energy, and securing that is the other aspect. Let's move ahead to Argentina, where the Prime Minister will head to. Now, this is extremely important because there are three aspects here. One is the Prime Minister Modi's bonhomie with Javier Milei. That is going to be on display. Both these leaders have a similar kind of chemistry. They are strong leaders. They enjoy mass popularity. They've had turnarounds. So I guess that is going to be a very important takeaway here. That is on a people-to-people, personal rapport kind of a thing. Second important part is that Argentina has the second largest shale gas reserves in the world. And that is very important for a country that imports 85% of its fuel needs and is the world's second largest importer. So if we are able to secure our energy needs by reaching out and collaborating with Argentina, that could be the biggest highlight and takeaway of this entire visit. Add to it the fact that the lithium that is there, the lithium reserves in Argentina, again, one of the largest in the world, could actually power our clean tech ambitions. That's as far as Argentina is concerned. 54% of India's lithium right now comes from China, and Argentina can help us reduce that dependence. Let's now move ahead to Brazil, which is extremely important because there is the BRICS summit where the Prime Minister will be, and doubling down on the South-South diplomacy is going to be extremely important, consolidating the position of India as the voice of Global South. Speaking up for the Global South, representing the Global South has been one of the lasting legacies in the last couple of years for the Prime Minister, for this government, and that is likely to be further stepped on here. It's also going to champion the joint stance against global terrorism. This is going to be a key theme as far as the BRICS summit is concerned, and that's going to be important for India. Let's now go ahead to the last stopover for the Prime Minister. The fifth country that he will go to is Namibia. This is not just about in how many decades there is an Indian Prime Minister that is going there. It's important, but there is an underlying theme which is about going to countries where you secure your uranium, cobalt, rare earth minerals supply, and that lithium and graphite being two. And that is going to be the key highlight. Hydrocarbons. Namibia is the richest in terms of hydrocarbons in that entire belt. And being able to secure some sort of a cooperation there, some broad understanding, could actually be a big boost. This is longest foreign trip of the Prime Minister, coming at a time of rising geopolitical flux, and ensuring that this critical resources are secured for the long term is going to be extremely significant.
Ahead of his 90th birthday, His Holiness Dalai Lama makes it clear his legacy will live on, free of foreign shackles, and the institution of Dalai Lama will continue. There will be a 15th Dalai Lama who will be the next spiritual leader and guide of the Tibetan Buddhists around the world, one that will be chosen by the trust and not by China. But Beijing demands the next Dalai Lama carry its stamp of approval, a puppet in prayer beads, handpicked from a golden urn. Choosing the next Dalai Lama is important for China, since it seeks legitimacy as far as its sovereign control over Tibet is concerned.
So I'm going to wrap this up right here, this edition of India Sense. Thanks so much for watching, viewers. On the other end of this break is the Southern View, the show that's flashing at the bottom of your screens with my colleagues Vasudha Venugopal and Veera Raghavan. Stay tuned.